Welcome to episode 3 of the Home and Energy Chats webinar series, Women in Green Building. My name is Heather Chandler and I'm the owner and publisher of Green and Healthy Maine Homes. I would like to start by sharing a special thank you to our sponsors, including our presenting sponsor for this year's Home and Energy Chats, Royal River Heat Pumps. We'll be hearing a little bit more from them in a moment. I would also like to thank our season sponsor, Bath Savings, a local Maine bank that proudly invests in the people, places, and businesses that make Maine strong. Bath Savings, your neighbor, your bank. We also have 2 episode sponsors this evening, including Emerald Builders. Emerald Builders crafts high quality, beautiful homes with care that are super energy efficient and made with environmentally conscious products and processes. And New Ventures Maine. New Ventures Maine creates an empowering environment for Maine people to define and achieve their career, financial, and small business goals. For 19 years, New Ventures Maine has provided the Totally Trades conferences and workshops for middle and high school girls to explore trade and technical careers, including green building and design and renewable energy. And now a word from our presenting sponsor, Royal River Heat Pumps.
Hi, I'm Zoe.
Hi, I'm Jen.
I'm Allie, and we understand perfectly the challenges that women face in the building industry.
We would love for you to come and join us. We are currently hiring HVAC technicians and electricians for both our Freeport and our new Edgecombe location. To apply, send your cover letter and resume to scott@royalriverheatpumps.com.
We're an award-winning, locally owned elite diamond contractor and an Efficiency Maine qualified partner.
We install Mitsubishi electric heat pumps exclusively, state heat pump water heaters, and we have an experienced service department.
Heat pumps are one of the most efficient ways to heat or cool your home or business.
As one of the top heat pump installers in the state of Maine, we're proud to be part of the green building community.
Visit us on the web at royalriverheatpumps.com or call us at 400-4065.
Great, thank you, Royal River Heat Pumps. So now a quick overview of the evening. In a moment, I am going to be turning it over to our moderator, Emily Mottram. We will then hear from each of our 3 panelists and open it up to discussion with time for Q&A after the presentations. So please go ahead and submit any questions you have using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we will try our best to get to them all. We did get several through the registration process, so we have quite a few on the list already, but we'd love to hear from you. Reminder that this webinar will be recorded and uploaded to our website, greenmainehomes.com. If you are unfamiliar with us, Green and Healthy Maine Homes is a multimedia brand dedicated to inspiring healthy, sustainable, energy smart, and future-ready Maine homes through an online business directory, biannual print magazines, monthly email newsletters, and an active social media presence on Facebook and Instagram. We share expert advice to inspire healthy, comfortable, affordable, efficient, and sustainable Maine homes. So please check us out at greenmainehomes.com to learn more. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator and panelists. Emily Mottram is an architect, energy consultant, and a building science educator. She is the founder and principal of Mottram Architecture, a boutique practice specializing in new homes and renovations that are beautiful, functional, comfortable, healthy, and durable. She hosts the weekly podcast, E3 Energy and Efficiency with Emily, and she also co-hosts the live streamed BS and Beer show, which is a weekly building science show with a national following for professionals and civilians alike. So welcome, Emily.
Thanks for having me.
We also have Claire Betze, and Claire has over 30 years of experience in the design and construction of a wide variety of projects. Her last 10 years have been spent establishing BuildingWorks, which is a residential energy construction firm specializing in a holistic and integrative approach to improve the performance of existing and new homes and their mechanical systems. So welcome, Claire.
Thanks, Heather.
And Anna Heath is a carpenter and project manager for Maine Passive House. She started as an apprentice 4 years ago and has discovered a passion for encouraging women and people not traditionally seen in the trades to learn carpentry skills. Through her work with a local nonprofit, the Center for Ecology-Based Economy, she launched We Built This, which is a workshop series led by women, making access to carpentry skill building available to all. And last but not least, Heather Thompson is the owner of Thompson Johnson Woodworks, servicing Peaks Island and Greater Portland. Heather and everyone at Thompson Johnson Woodworks is committed to high performance building through best practice carbon sequestering practices. So at this point, I am going to hand it over to Emily. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to hand it over to Claire.
Okay, thanks, Heather. It's really great to be here tonight and be part of this panel. I'm Claire Betze. I'm the owner of BuildingWorks. Next slide, Maggie. We're a residential energy consulting firm, and we work with homeowners, architects, and builders on existing constructions, existing homes, new construction, renovations, and additions. Next slide, Heather. Sorry, Maggie. We provide testing in terms of blower door, duct leakage testing of ventilation equipment, whether it's for code compliance or general information or part of program requirements. Next slide, Maggie. And we also do energy modeling and analysis so that we can see how each of the assemblies are working and how they kind of affect our energy usage and energy costs. Sometimes that's for just comparing different types of assemblies, and sometimes it's part of a program requirement. Okay, Maggie. We also perform load calculations in terms of room by room heating and cooling load calculations. We calculate ventilation requirements in accordance with ASHRAE standards and provide performance specifications for mechanical systems, building envelopes, and ventilation plans. Okay, Maggie. We focus on a holistic and integrative approach on all of our projects, and we really work hard to understand the building envelope, meaning the foundation, the exterior walls, and the roof assemblies, and how they're integrated along with the equipment that we need for space conditioning and for hot water. Okay, Maggie. As far as building goes, the building science really has remained the same. We understand it a lot better and we talk about it a lot more, but each house really functions as a system. And if we keep these basics in mind in terms of how moisture is managed, how we're ventilating and dealing with point source moisture loads and things like that, and really air sealing and insulating better and providing good systems, that really all works hand in hand together as we focus on more traditional building techniques as well as new systems that are in place. Okay, Maggie. We've really kind of started to practice differently in terms of practices and methods and materials. There are all kinds of new products out there. These are just views of some of them. We're building thicker wall assemblies to add more insulation. Tapes and membranes are available to help us build tighter. Integrated sheathing and insulation options are available. Okay, Maggie. This helps us build tighter buildings. So we're really trying to minimize air leakage, which helps us with comfort. It helps us use less energy in doing that. The other thing that has changed, okay, Maggie, is mechanical systems and how we've really kind of transitioned into heat pumps that are now being able to be used for cold climates, heat pump water heaters for water heating, and ERVs, energy recovery ventilators, or HRVs, heat recovery ventilators, that allow us to ventilate properly for air exchange. These all work hand in hand and have allowed us to really think hard, even in our climate, about transitioning off of fossil fuels and going to an all-electric approach so that we can address climate change. Okay, Maggie. These all really go, in terms of work, either for existing homes and for new construction. Ideally, we really want all of our houses to be durable, safe and dry, healthy, have good indoor air quality, comfortable in terms of air sealing and insulation, inefficient in terms of right sizing equipment, whether it's an older home or whether it's a new construction project. Okay, Maggie. Woo! And then, so that really is, that was a good surprise, thanks. This is on a slide, but it really all goes hand in hand and it looks different for each one of us. But I really feel fortunate to be part of the community here in Maine and be part of this discussion. Thanks.
I will just jump right in then. Thank you, Claire, and thank you everybody else for having me here. My name's Anna. I am a builder with Maine Passive House. This is the crew, and we've actually almost doubled in size just in the last year, given all the demand that has been happening in the area. Next slide, please. I kind of want to take you back a little bit because a lot of what I care about is bringing women into the trades and providing access to the trades to people who maybe haven't been in the trades in the past or felt welcome in the trades in the past. So my start, I guess, really goes back to my grandfather, his family business and his father's family business in New York. And I studied chemistry and then environmental engineering. Came about it sort of from many different directions. Traveled to Korea, learned some things there, made some connections there, and all of it kind of brought me back to this lifelong dream to build and to design. And of course, I had to go into thousands of dollars of college debt to figure that out. And I think part of what we're missing right now culturally, at least when I was growing up, was we were pushed to go to college straight out. We didn't get told that there was value in going to the trades. We didn't get told that there was value into going to vocational schools. So I probably could have saved myself a lot of debt and gone directly in this way, but I came to it in a roundabout way. I made a lot of really cool connections, and I don't think I would have gotten into green building without the things that I studied and the places that I went. So next slide, please. This was my very first project with Maine Passive House. I got hired in the fall after I graduated. And of course, we were on this vicious cycle of framing up in the middle of winter, which we're only hoping to break this year. And it's been 4 years since I've been with the company. And I'm sure everybody here can identify with that a little bit. But one of the things that was really great about jumping into a passive house as an apprentice was having the opportunity to work meticulously and detail oriented with tapes and membranes. And I could feel so useful in those areas when I didn't fully understand what was going on around me as the big picture goes. And as a company, we do renovations and we do new construction, but everything that we do has an element of passive house principle to them. And we tend to push our clients towards building with better materials that have lower embodied carbon, and working with local materials whenever possible. Next slide, please. So one of the biggest things that I learned coming up through, I've started as apprentice, moved into carpenter, kind of touched on lead carpenter, and now I'm in project management. And I say kind of touched on lead because I don't think in decades from now I'll ever say I'm a lead carpenter officially, because I feel like there's just so much to learn and so many things to discover and try. So I think that's always to be achieved, but it's part of where I've been at. And one of the best lessons that I learned was that I can fix any mistake that I make. And I think it's easy to get caught up in perfectionism, especially when there's just this added pressure, maybe that I put on myself being a woman on the job, where I have to perform as best as possible or else I don't deserve a place there. Next slide, please. So through this time, I actually found my empowerment in an organization locally that is working to do outreach to improve the economy and make a more sustainable future. Sorry, that's my cat. He's awesome. And it's kind of an incubator. You can go in with these ideas and you have all of these resources available to you to try to make them happen. And I got involved on the board as the shelter working group steward. And then I got to bring people together to build a little free pantry for Norway. And I got to work with people who wanted to build a greenhouse in the local community and people who wanted to make window inserts. And so it was an opportunity to provide access to carpentry skills to people. Next slide, please. Which brings me to We Built This, which is a project very close to my heart. Our pilot program was last fall, and we had 16 women come together in the middle of COVID, tested, masked, we did the whole nine, and having that community together at that time and getting to build together for 2 consecutive Saturdays was so uplifting and empowering and exciting. And we just got a $9,000 grant for the program. So we're going to be running a bunch more in the coming years. And I'm just very excited about this project. And I think it's my last slide after this. So thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Anna and Claire, those were great. My name is Heather Thompson. I own Thompson Johnson Woodworks. We've been on Peaks Island doing construction since around 2001. Next slide. So my ex-husband and I founded Thompson Johnson Woodworks, and after we got divorced, I decided that I really couldn't stand not to be involved in the company, and I approached him about buying it from him. And so in 2013, I became the sole owner of the company. And since then, we've been really focused on best practices in building, creating a company culture that is positive and problem solving and fun. And we've been trying to improve our, we try to improve every project that we do by either choosing better materials or increasing the air sealing or making every project that we touch more energy efficient. Next slide. This is not a house we worked on, actually. So number one is my 2 rotten kids. They're hilarious and they hate having their photos taken, but they're the best and make me so happy. Anyway, could you change the slide, please? So since 2013, here's this sort of Thompson Johnson Woodworks numbers. I've hired 50 people. I've had to fire 11. And actually, we changed QuickBooks in 2014. So this isn't quite true. This is really true from 2014 through now. 23 people quit. We've had 93 customers and 185 projects. And we've tripled the gross income. And we've had some really amazing awards and we've had some really amazing customers, and it feels like we've really started to come into our own as high performance builders who are doing really unique, interesting projects that are hitting high performance metrics, at least, 2/3 of that. Next slide, please. The secret about this PowerPoint is that I used an old PowerPoint. So there's some old PowerPoint parts in it. Like everything is awesome, which is true, is a holdover from the previous PowerPoint. So maybe 3 or 4 years after I bought the company, my friend Rachel Conley and I went to our first NESE conference, and we had contact with our first customer who was truly interested in high performance building. And after the conference, we went down and met with them. They lived in Boston. We talked about their project, and they had bought this old house on Peaks Island. And so this house was the first house that we like really were able to try to hit high performance details on. We hit a 0.6 ACH 50 for air tightness with a renovation, which we were very excited about. We used a lot of polyiso foam on the outside. We did a flash and pack spray foam detail in the roof with dense pack cellulose below it. The owner is a graphic designer. He's amazing, and he chose the colors and stuff like that. Next slide. So this is the house in the beginning. Here's a slide of the crew sitting on the porch. I think we were supposed to start in probably October, and we ended up really starting in November and pouring footing work in January. Here's some more details, the window details that we do over the polyiso, and then the flash and pack. You can see the spray foam going in. Next slide. Here's a few beautiful pictures of the finished product. Next slide. Next slide. And then, you know, we just had these photos taken last spring. So we're very happy to, you know, after 6 to 8 years, finally getting the photos done. Next slide. Our next really significant high performance project was designed by Kaplan Thompson and ended up being the Fine Home Building House of the Year, which was such an exciting, amazing award that we, you know, you never really think that's going to happen. So this couple moved to Peaks Island from Buffalo. They wanted to build a house that was super energy efficient, and we needed to build a house that could deal with higher interior humidity levels because of health reasons. So we ended up putting all the insulation on the outside of the wall. So at this point, we'd started thinking about materials more, and we used all dense pack cellulose. We bought locally sourced cedar siding. Next slide. Here's the details. It was a funky build because there were there was a 10-degree angle in the foundation, which carried through the front of the building. And it just took a little bit more head scratching to figure out how to really do it right. In the middle slide on the bottom, you can see the exterior eye joists where we installed all the dense pack cellulose. And then you can see the air barrier with the siding going up. Next slide. Here's some more beautiful pictures. Next slide. There's my happy customer. She's an incredible artist. Next slide. Next slide. And then this house, it's not a house, it's a writer's studio. Rachel Conley designed it, and we worked as a team for 3 years to get it through permitting with the city of Portland for various reasons, shoreline zoning. And on first glance, it looked like a second house on the property, but it was definitely meant as a writer's studio. So the permit process was complicated, but the customers were incredible and worked with us throughout the whole thing. But and we finished it last year, and Rachel submitted it and got an AIA Design Award, which I'm very proud of. She's an incredible designer. This is not a high performance building, but we used the same intention. We chose low carbon materials. We're using dense packed cellulose. We're using locally sawn cedar. We tried to minimize concrete for 2 reasons. The first being on Peaks Island, it's expensive to bring a concrete truck out and you know, just a logistical nightmare. But also because concrete is one of the worst materials you can use for carbon. So we're trying to think about how do we minimize the use of these materials and still build a durable, long-lasting structure. That's right on the coast and it's going to get slammed with a lot of weather. So far, so good. Next slide. Here's some more building details. After the foundation or all the footings were poured and the building hadn't been framed, it looked like an art installation because the ledge was all exposed and the footings were sort of growing up out of the ledge. It was incredibly beautiful, but my PowerPoint template didn't allow for the big pictures of that. So anyway, next slide. There's the finished house. We tried to minimize the amount of clearing that we did. And of course we did more than we wanted to, but in the end it was, we did the best we could. Next slide. There's the front. Next slide. There's the nice porch. Next slide. So the elephant in the room is carbon. And 2 or 3 years ago, I was at the Building Energy conference in Boston that Nessie puts on every year. And maybe it was, I think it was 3 years ago. And before that conference, we were all worried about making houses tighter and more energy efficient. And I saw a presentation that was put on by Ace McCarlton and Jacob Rakusin and another person whose name I've forgotten. And they were talking about how, you know what really matters are the choices that you make in materials. Next slide. And they showed this slide that shows a typical code built house and the carbon that's emitted from the build through 100 years of running the building. And then a passive house or a net zero house that's built with spray foam. And there was never going to be any possibility of making back the carbon that was emitted during the build throughout the entire life cycle of the house. And it blew my mind and it blew so many other people's minds that we really started to think even more about the materials we were using. And we always knew, like, buy local, try to use wood whenever you can, but to have that really stark, the image of this passive house, net zero house that could never recover the impact it made was incredible. Next slide. This is another slide. This is the best case scenario where they're comparing a high performance natural build with straw bale and clay plasters. They're doing amazing work in Vermont. Next slide. Anyway, here's the punchline. Everything is awesome. The holdover from the last presentation. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to sit on the panel with the three of you, not only highlighting women in construction, but women who are really pushing the envelope of green building in this trades and construction field. So, you know, that's a passion of mine, but really seeing that and how you all pulled it together and your different skills and experience is so cool. So I'm blessed to be part of this panel tonight, but let's get into a couple of questions that came in prior to the start of the show. We'll just start at the beginning. What do you guys think or feel could or should be done to help other women or underrepresented groups get into, you know, these types of fields, construction, engineering, you know, building science, trade fields? Anyone want to jump in on that? All right, Anna, I'm looking at you because you got a grant and a program. So
Unmuted, I'm ready. I mean, I don't have a universal answer. I know that I didn't have the conversations in high school about it at all. And I think that was the time when I was really starting to think about it. I think there are class requirements that could be part of the high school education that might integrate it better. I think there are missed opportunities as far as internships and collaborations with construction companies in Maine and youth. I just think women in construction have to be more visible, and that's why this is such a cool thing. And it's part of why Maine Passive has so many women working there right now. It's just once one gets in the door and makes a little home, you know, everybody else is like, oh wait, I can go there too. I can see myself there as well. And so I think visibility is huge. And I think opening up opportunities for people to just try it in spaces that aren't super intimidating is huge.
Yeah, just to capitalize on what Anna has said, I think just creating spaces where people can, you know, and women in particular can really learn how to use hand tools, whether it's building a toolbox or a bird, you know, birdhouse or something like that. I think that I've been involved in those kinds of things, and I'm just amazed at how they get so empowered by being able to just try these different types of things and in a safe manner, and that they're held and supported in that. I also think that kind of really interacting with young women and girls, and you know, whether it's taking apart things like toasters and lawnmowers and you know, and things like that, or teaching them about triangles and why those are strong, and you know, it's just really amazing to watch how excited that they can get about these basic kind of principles, and encouraging them to really think outside the box and to really think differently about how they could use this in terms of what engineers and builders and you know, all kinds of people, you know, especially in the trades, you know, can do, and that it's a good path to follow.
I think also being really aware of what we're putting in our job ads and saying we want to hire people who don't just look like the typical carpenter, making that clear. We want to hire LGBTQ people, we want to hire women, we want to hire people of color, letting people know that we're open to that.
Yeah, a lot of great things said there. And those were two comments actually that, you know, I heard where people had said, so someone who actually works with Anna now was trying to get into the construction industry. And she said similar things. One, I didn't know this was available to me. I went to college. I still didn't know what this was available. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I decided I liked it, worked on a farm, decided she liked working with her hands, was like, okay, well, you know, I built sets in you know, school, maybe construction, whatever, and trying to get into that. And she said when her and the other person I interviewed on the podcast were looking, they didn't find any ads that specifically said like, we're looking to hire women. So some of it maybe is as simple as the language that we use, like you said, Heather. But kind of going back to that, and what you all said was another question is, you know, what classes in high school could they have taken, should we have taken? I know I went to a high school that had shop class all through high school. I could take woodworking, learned how to use a lot of tools, but I'm kind of understanding, well, first of all, it's been a lot of years since I was in high school, but also that a lot of programs aren't offering that anymore. And so what other related classes, and could it be as interesting as going into a math class and being, you know, hey, these trades, you know, what did you guys take in high school, do you think, that led to this? Was the question.
Well, I'm older than you, Emily, so I have to say that, and I have the white hair to kind of prove it, but I think that, yeah, we didn't, you know, the track that I was in was really geared toward college, and even though we had woodworking, in school, we didn't take it. It wasn't something that girls really took or even had the opportunity to take, because it just wasn't part of our culture back then, or even in our even in our perspective. But I went into engineering because I didn't like English. And I thought, well, I love math, and I love, how that all works together. We had teachers that kind of showed us kind of how that all worked rather than just theory. And that helped out quite a bit in terms of making it interesting and experiential. And, well, how can I really use this? And I use, more basic math and geometry skills now than I ever thought that I would, type of thing. So I think that it's just kind of making them more experiential and being encouraging and providing the support, so that we all feel comfortable in going into different paths.
I studied art and ended up like doing sculpture, and then ended up making furniture, and then we ended up doing this. But I think being able to think through problems and think in a three-dimensional way and think about the way things go together, those are all the skills that you need to like really understand how a building goes together and how to make something. And so that's every topic in school, right? Anything that gets you to think critically about something will help you in carpentry, specifically renovation, but just how to solve problems.
I'm with you both completely. Like, you don't have to overhaul the curriculum. You can just include, here's where you would actually use this on this particular job. Right. I also think we're underutilizing the field trip, because who doesn't love a field trip? Let's go places. Let's go see a house being built. I mean, why not? Half the people are going to end up there anyways. So.
Yeah, so true. I think I didn't go on, well, we did Habitat for Humanity type stuff with my grandfather was a contractor when I was a kid. So I just, did all that. But we went to the Glengarry brick plant in college, and that was cool. Like, I could get behind the field trip. And someone else that I interviewed on the podcast said, I didn't know I could be an architect until someone came to our school and was like, hey, architecture is a profession, right? So maybe some of it is just access, right? So what other relevant experiences aside from high school led you to this profession? I mean, I think my grandfather being a contractor and doing Habitat for Humanity, and I wanted to go to art school, and my dad said, no, that's not a profession. So that's kind of how I ended up as an architect. But Claire, you talked about it with engineering. I think applying it, I didn't actually like engineering until I went to college, and our engineering professor, no, I didn't like math until I went to college, and our engineering professor's like, here's how you actually use calculus. I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense. So other relevant experiences or things that you guys did or that were part of your history that you also think led to going to the trades? No crickets. All right.
Well, I was just thinking about it a little. I mean, I got stuck in the theory quite a bit. I always wanted to be an architect. That's my dream job. And I got stuck in the theory, and I got stuck in the like building science, and got stuck in just like this, you're not working with your hands, you're working with your brain all the time. And finally got into working with my hands, because I knew that if I had never built a house in my life, I would never be able to design one.
That is very knowledgeable of you, considering there are a lot of people who design things that have never built anything before. So, what do you think are the top 3 barriers to women in this industry? And I think, one thing that I would go back to what you said, one of you said earlier about thinking about things in 3 dimensions. Most people that I work with don't understand plans and they can't see 3 dimensions. And this is going to sound terrible, but usually the husband seems to pick it up sooner, or the male counterpart, or if you have 2, than women. And so it makes me wonder, it's a learned experience, that do we teach them different things at younger ages, right? That 3D doesn't happen like from the plans to 3 dimensions as quickly. But what other barriers do you think are to this industry for women, or would have been the biggest challenges you've experienced as women in the field?
I think just the expectation of what are appropriate jobs for certain people, and that's all changing now. And it's changing slowly, but it's certainly changed a lot since I was in high school. I think that's the biggest barrier. And then the way kids are treated, right? Our culture expects people to behave in certain ways. And so we enforce that from the time they are born through forever. So, that's a big thing to change, but we're doing it.
Yeah. I think another part of that, just to kind of, couple onto what, Heather has said, and what, we've all been saying, is to kind of create a culture where it's okay not to know, and provide apprenticeships and have mentors. I mean, I really wanted to work with my hands. I wanted to get out of my head and get, into, out of engineering. And I left my engineering kind of job because I really love to see how things were put together and how to build them. And I've been really fortunate that I've been, on many job sites where, the carpenters were willing to kind of show me how to do things. And I learned by doing. And I think that, if we can kind of be compassionate and kind of keep that in mind and be inviting and really, target young women and girls to kind of think about these kind of different being in the trades and be supportive in that, and make sure we create a culture that allows for everybody to learn and not feel bad about not being perfect, or, having to do things right the first time all the time, which just doesn't happen. I think, Anna, your presentation, you talked about, you just need to learn how to fix your mistakes. That is really what I learned too. And that was the trait of a really good carpenter. You didn't have to know, everything. You just know how to fix what you messed up, which is just perfect.
Yep. Being able to ask questions.
Yeah.
That's something that people are not expected to do. Everyone wants to be an expert. And Anna, you're right that the expectation for everyone to go to college is it limits. People don't know that carpentry is an option, right? And people don't know they could work with their hands for the rest of their life and be very happy and fulfilled and make a good living and make awesome stuff.
I also, I'm thinking a lot about the mentors that I've had. I never had a female mentor in this industry, but I wish maybe I will one day. But the men that I worked under that helped me grow the most towards understanding that I didn't have to be an amazing carpenter in the first 4 years of doing it, were the ones who would just like pull me over and say, look at that, I messed that up, that looks horrible, like that's terrible, this is I have to fix this, this is how I'm going to fix this, this is terrible, and just seeing these people that would intimidate me coming into this space. They're fantastic at what they do. They work super efficiently. They're men. They're larger than me, and all of these other things that made me feel intimidated by them. They would just break that down completely by saying, I mess up too. And I think that's another huge point of access.
I think you basically answered the next question, which, went back into it is, the question was that they find tradespeople had family influence, like a parent, a grandparent, an aunt and uncle, maybe something there. And what could families be doing in the modern age to give women or girls a better opportunity to be in the trades? So, I talked about my grandfather. My dad was a dairy farmer, but what can we be doing as family, or people who maybe aren't in the trades, but can. I look at my husband, he goes out to the garage, he picks up a tool, he doesn't think twice about it. I have to make sure I know how to use it first, and then, and then go to that. And so like, what can we be doing to help our families or younger girls to, get past the fear, right, of not doing it correctly?
That's a tough one. Boy, woo! I think just by providing access and just being really encouraging and showing, leading by example of, in terms of, I think Anna said it, the more, just by opening that door a little bit and it creates a space where it's like, I can do that. I can do this. And really, working with people and being encouraging and positive. And, there's just no, you just have to try it, and you'd be surprised at what you're going to find in all kinds of different realms, even different than learning how to build things, but just in how you feel about yourself and how, in what you're doing. There's a lot of power in that.
I think also what Anna said was learning that perfection, you can't be perfect the first time you try something. And I think wanting to be perfect is a real, that's a lot of pressure, and it keeps people from doing their best work.
Yeah. And Heather, on the podcast once, you said to me, don't work for free. No, nobody, don't come up to me and say, I'll work for free till I learn the experiences. Everybody who's starting out doesn't know how to do anything. So we should not be offering to learn on our own dime, because, we all learn together. And I really appreciated when you said that. But so these are all super hard questions about being women in the field. So let's talk about building science instead. There was actually a specific question for you, Anna. Aside from completing your Passive House certification, did you participate in any other green building specific carpentry classes? But I'd love to hear from Claire and Heather too. What certifications do you have? What led you to building science? So Anna.
Besides the Passive House consultant, I have my lead GBC, which is actually going to expire in like 11 days. So I have to do a bunch of credits for that. But I, other than that, nothing building science specific beyond this really awesome course I took in college. So I don't have any cool recommendations.
Claire, what certifications do you have or did you take?
Yeah, when I left engineering, I went to work for Carpenter, and I bartered, kind of trading project management skills for carpentry skills to be a carpenter apprentice. And that was a really good way to learn and to use my existing skill set, in doing that. And then I got so confused because there was always more than every carpenter was like, oh, don't do it that way, do it this way. There was so many different ways to do the same thing. That I was like, okay, what is going on? And we ended up renovating an existing house. And I love older houses. I love how they come together, and the character and the moldings and all kinds of the woodworking expertise that goes in them. So I decided, well, I'm going to go work on old houses and learn how to do that. And I went to the North Bennett Street School and got a certificate in preservation carpentry. And I call that kind of my hiatus from, I don't have to do engineering anymore, but learning how to work with my hands and learning about old buildings, and the master kind of architects and builders were all into one. And that was really, really awesome to learn about. But then when I came back to Maine, I was like, how am I going to pay off this debt? And what am I going to do? And so I went to work for a builder, and I thought I could do the same thing and trade project management skills and be part of the crew, but that didn't really happen. I ended up doing project management, and they ended up working with a HERS rater and studying building science, how to make homes healthier, how to use sustainable materials. And I was just fascinated by all of that. And I learned how to do it in older homes and how to improve them. And I learned how to do it in new construction and how to use materials in an effective way and keep yourself out of trouble. And that was all just, it really created a passion and really helped me kind of move out of that and start my own business doing just that, actually.
Very cool. Heather?
I have no certifications. I did take a deep energy retrofit class with Mark Rosenbaum on heat spring, which is an amazing online course, whatever website, but I couldn't force myself to do the homework. And so I didn't finish the class. But I have been talking with Mark Pollard specifically, but the entire crew about how to build things and how to think about the way moisture needs to be able to move through a wall, and where to, that's the only thing I can how to build a roof, how much insulation. So it's just almost 9 years of figuring things out with people. I have the certification of Hard Knocks or what is it? Not Hard Knocks. Anyway,
you've had to put them together too. Yeah. So you really had to understand it, which leads to another question that's sort of building science related, but like, what's the single most important thing that you can do to an old or an existing house? I think they're talking in terms of efficiency, but as we know, building science isn't just efficiency. So what do you guys each think is like the most critical thing? If you're going to do a retrofit, what's the most critical thing you should do?
I think Claire should answer this.
I think the biggest thing you can do is make sure it's dry, or else get yourself into big trouble. And I learned that way from Heather's school, one of the experiential school. I have one of those older houses with a really wet basement, and it's leaky as a sieve, and it's just a 1,500 square foot house, and it used like 800 gallons of fuel oil to heat, and it was cold and drafty. And I thought, okay, we're going to start at the lid, because that's where we have the biggest impact. And I'll get to the basement next year. It'll happen. Well, it didn't happen, and then we ended up having to got ourselves into some trouble and had to pull out all the insulation in the lid because it was saturated by the moisture in the basement. So that would be my biggest thing. That and a exterior rated door to the bulkhead to reduce air leakage and be a weather tight, limit that weather tight opening in your outside access from your basement.
I've known Claire for a long time. I was pretty certain water was going to be the number one thing. It's been any time in existing homes, the first thing you say is we'll deal with the water problem first. Oh, you don't have a slab in the basement. But Heather or Anna, anything to add to that?
No, I think that's right. Interior moisture. You don't want your nicely insulated house to fall down around your ears when it rots.
Yeah. So there are some specific questions about some of your projects that you shared. Heather, for the writer's studio, does the flat roof like that pose any challenges for weight in terms of accumulated snow load?
We had it engineered so the roof is designed to carry snow load. We're not getting a lot of snow anymore, and it's in a windy area, but it is designed to carry that potential weight.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anna, where did the grant come from for the We Build This program?
No worries. It's from the Maine Community Foundation, and they had a COVID-19 relief grant. So we actually qualified under the COVID-19 relief because it's providing a sustainable work source for women, which is kind of cool.
in correlation to that, also for you, Anna, is when you realized you weren't enjoying your current path, what did you do, or how did you have the courage to switch what you were doing and find opportunities like an apprenticeship? This person is about to graduate from college and has similar questions.
I left a very good salaried environmental engineering job in New York City. I did an internship. It was very boring. I was not interested in it. I was not interested in indoor air quality at all, or going into these buildings and doing the metrics. So a lot of things, like personal life things, kind of brought me back to Maine, and I ended up working in a food cart for the summer, trying to find a job. I knew that I wanted to get into green building, couldn't get into anything that I was applying for. And one day I think I Googled passive houses in Maine, and Maine passive house pops up at the very top of that thing. And I just called him. My boss talked to me for an hour and hired me. So it was a lot of flying by the seat of my pants, but I always had that one cardinal direction that kind of helped. Don't have any other advice though.
Claire, what project management tools, or what are your favorite discovery research process, for project management do you use?
I would love to say I use a lot of high-powered tools, but I don't really in terms of project management. It's really just kind of understanding how long things take and working kind of with your team to make sure that you identify what the long, lead times are in terms of getting materials and supplies, and kind of creating that into your schedule so that you can manage all the expectations that go along with schedule cost and, and the quality. All of those kind of go together, and it's really a matter of understanding what it takes to get there and being able to communicate that. I think effective project management is really about good communication and really listening and really understanding what the goals are of the client and what we need to do to help do that, and what kind of trade-offs we might have to make in terms of cost fitting and in terms of all those types of things, or not. It all kind of goes together in terms of good project management, I think.
You sort of answered the next question, which is, any advice for women who are in carpentry currently, who are looking to move into a more managerial role? Like, all the things that you described sound like if you've built it before and you have that understanding, that certainly should help more in project management.
Yeah, it definitely helps out quite a bit. And I think it's, and it's really about kind of making your intentions known, and really kind of understanding what your path, needs to be, and asking for opportunities to learn and to kind of experience it, whether it's, actually physically building as part of a carpenter or kind of venturing into project management. I think that if you are communicative and really make your intentions about what you want your path to be, I think that's half the battle in terms of learning to ask what we really want to happen, in our work careers and everything. I think that women and girls in general kind of, we don't always do that. I'm not sure that we were taught as, in our younger years to do that, but I think we're changing, and I think we need to learn to ask for what we want.
One of the things in communication, there's so many aspects of this, but I think because there's a bit more emotiveness and there's a bit more communication, kind of, I'm generalizing, but women tend to bring that to a workplace. And I think that's, as women move into management in design and construction, we're shifting so much of this culture that existed for a long time in the building trades. And I think that is fascinating alone. And then I also have found myself saying to people, prefacing, I'm going to be direct with you. and say blah, blah, blah. And that excuses me from feeling like guilty for being direct and like saying it like it is. So there's coping strategies for everything, but I can't get anywhere managing people or managing subs without being direct. And I think that's something to think about in the industry too.
Heather, you've been quiet. Anything to add to that?
I did a project with Claire, I don't know, well, we're still working on it, but she helped us figure out how to design the heating system. And she said something like, boy, you're persistent. Because I kept going back to her because we wanted it to be better and we wanted it to do all these things. And we kept working on it and working on it and working on it. And we came up with the best solution. But I think being persistent and knowing, working to make the best product you can is, you know, requires you to not be afraid to keep asking questions.
I think the word was tenacious, Heather.
Oh, tenacious.
What's
yes.
the word that I used? Which I thought is a really good thing.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump in here now because we are actually out of time. So we've come to the end of today's session, but I do want to say thank you to Emily and Heather and Claire and Anna for all of your incredible contributions tonight. This was a great conversation, and I feel like we just scratched the surface. I feel like there's a lot of energy around where do we take this from here now. So a lot of people, you know, kind of nodding along like, yeah, so what do we do? What are the next steps? So I do appreciate this. I hope the conversation this evening was inspiring to everybody who was attending. I want to thank our sponsors again, Royal River Heat Pumps, Bath Savings, Emerald Builders, and New Ventures Maine. I'd like to say thank you to Maggie Perkins, who was managing everything beautifully behind the scenes. And thank you again to our panelists for sharing your time and expertise with us this evening. We do have a special thank you gift for you from a treat from our favorite local chocolatier, Dean Sweets, that we'll be mailing you, and as well as a complimentary subscription to Green and Healthy Maine that you can either use for yourself or as a gift. If any of our attendees have questions that we didn't get to tonight, we will include contact information for our panelists in a follow-up email along with a link to the recording. So please feel free to share that if you'd like. It will be available on our website at greenmainhomes.com within the next couple of days. Please mark your calendars for the next episode of the Home and Energy Chats Landscaping with Native Plants on June 8th at 6 p.m. All of the details are also on our website. And last but not least, you'll see a brief survey pop up when we close the webinar tonight. We'd love to hear your feedback on tonight's session to help us craft programming for the future. So thank you again and have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.